Alright, Karina baby, today is June the 21st, and the summer solstice is between the 20th and the 22nd every year, right? So the longest day of the year is the day of the summer solstice. The shortest day of the year is December 21st. It has equal parts of the morning, the afternoon, and the night, right? And that's how we mark our calendar. So this year I thought that the summer solstice was today on the 21st. It's Sunday, it's Father's Day. And you are 5 years, 2 months, and 11 days old today. Can you believe it? Mama can't believe it. And so we're going to read the 21st of June. And it is a sunny spell. Did you know that the first day of summer, fairies take a vacation? Well, they do. The good fairies float. Florence was going to the seaside. She packed her swimsuit, gave her wand a twirl, and pling! Off she went. Florence landed on the beach with a bump. It was a hot, sunny day. So she went for a swim in the sea. Florence was floating on her back when she saw a tiny black cloud. It was right over the place where she was swimming. Then she felt a drop of rain. And another. Thought Florence. How odd. It was the Wicked Witch of Gretel, up to no good tricks again. The fairies called her Grumpy Gretel because she was always in a bad mood. And now Gretel was trying to spoil Florence's vacation by making it rain. Florence ran and got her wand. She gave it a couple of twirls and said some magic words. Rain, rain, go away, I want a hot and sunny day. And a sprinkle of starburst and rain clouds vanished. And there was a clear blue sky. I hope my sunny spell will last, said Florence. And I'm happy to tell you that it did. There she is. She went to get her wand. Right? And she made all the clouds go away. Alright, let's see what our next book is in the children's literature book. Hansel and Gretel. There's Hansel and Gretel. Close to a large forest there lived a woodcutter with his wife and his 2 children. The boy was called Hansel and the girl was called Gretel. They were always very poor and had very little to live on. And at one time, when there was famine in the land, he could no longer procure daily bread. One night, when he lay in bed worrying over his troubles, he sighed and said to his wife, "What is to become of us? How are we to feed our poor children when we have nothing for ourselves?" "I'll tell you what, husband," answered the wife. "Tomorrow morning we will take the children out quite early into the thickest part of the forest. We will light a fire and give each one of them a piece of bread. And then we will go to our work and leave them alone. They won't be able to find their way back, and so we shall be rid of them." "Nay, wife," said the man, "we won't do that. I could never find it in my heart to leave my children alone in the forest. The wild animals would soon tear them to pieces." "What a fool you are," she said. Then we must all four die of hunger. You may as well plane the boards for our coffins at once. She gave him no peace till he considered. Yeah.
Hey, now right this second, because John's pulling his dad. In a little while, we're talking about going over to Promised Land and hiking an island.
Okay. Can I come?
So, yeah.
Okay.
What's up?
We're hiking an island today. That is awesome. So she gave him no peace until he considered. But I grieve over the poor children all the same, said the man. And the two children could not go to sleep for hunger either. And they heard what their stepmother said to their father. Gretel wept bitterly and said, "All is over with us now." "Be quiet, Gretel," said Hansel. "Don't cry. I will find some way out of it." When the old people had gone to sleep, he got up, put on his little coat, opened the door, and stepped out. The moon was shining brightly, and the white pebbles ran the house sewn like newly minted coins. Hansel stooped down and put as many into his pocket as they would hold. Then he went back to Gretel and said, "Take comfort, little sister, and go to sleep. God won't forsake us." And then he went to bed again. At daybreak, before the sun had risen, the woman came and said, "Get up, you lazy bones. We are going into the forest to fetch wood." Then she gave them each a piece of bread and said, "Here is something for your dinner. But don't eat it before then, for you'll get no more." Gretel put the bread under her apron, for Hansel had stones in his pockets. Then they all started for the forest. When they had gone a little way, Hansel stopped and looked back at the cottage. And he did the same thing again and again. His father said, "Hansel, what are you stopping to look back at? Take care and put your best foot foremost." "Oh, father," said Hansel, "I am looking at my white cat. It is sitting on the roof waiting to say goodbye to me." "Little fool, that's no cat. It's the morning sunshine on the chimney," said the mother. But Hansel had not been looking at the cat. He had been dropping a pebble on the ground each time he stopped. When he reached the middle of the forest, their father said, "Now, children, pick up some wood. I want to make a fire to warm you." Hansel and Gretel gathered the twigs together and soon made a huge pile. Then the pile was lighted, and when it blazed up, the woman said, "Now lie down by the fire and rest yourselves while we go and cut wood. When we have finished, we will come back to fetch you." Aww. Poor Hansel and Gretel, right? Thank goodness Hansel was so smart. Hansel and Gretel sat by the fire, and when dinner time came, they each ate their little bits of bread. And they thought their father was quite near because they could hear the sound of an axe. It was no axe, however, but a branch which the man had tied to a dead tree, and which blew backwards and forwards against it. They sat so long a time that they got tired. Then their eyes began to close, and they were soon fast asleep. When they woke, it was dark. It was dark night. Gretel began to cry, "How shall we ever get out of the wood?" But Hansel comforted her and said, "Wait a little while till the moon rises, and then we will soon find our way." When the full moon rose, Hansel took his little sister's hand, and they walked on, guided by the pebbles, which glittered like newly coined money. They walked the whole night, and at daybreak they found themselves back in their father's cottage. They knocked at the door, and when the woman opened it, and saw Hansel and Gretel, she said, "You bad children, why did you sleep so long in the wood? We thought you did not mean to come back any more." But their father was delighted, for it had gone to his heart to leave them behind alone. Not long afterwards, they were again in great destruction, and the children heard the woman at night in bed say to their father, "We have eaten up everything again but half a loaf, and then we will be at the end of everything. The children must go away. We will take them farther into the forest so that they won't be able to find their way back. There is nothing else to be done." The man took it much to heart and said we had better share our last crust with the children. But the woman would not listen to a word he said. She only scolded and reproached him. Anyone who once says a must also be, and as the anyone who once says A must also say B, and as the father had given in the first time, he had to do so the second. The children were again wide awake and heard what was said. When the old people went to sleep, Hansel again got up, meaning to go out and get more pebbles. But the woman had locked the door, and he couldn't get out. But he consoled his little sister and said, "Don't cry, Gretel. Go to sleep. God will help us." In the early morning, the woman made the children get up and give them each a piece of bread, but it was smaller than the last. On the way to the forest, Hansel crumbled it up in his pocket and stopped every now and then to throw a crumb onto the ground. "Hansel, why are you stopping to look about you for?" asked the father. "I am looking at my dove, which is sitting on the roof and wants to say goodbye to me," answered Hansel. Little fool," said the woman, "that is no dove. It is the morning sun shining on the chimney." Nevertheless, Hansel kept strewing the crumbs from time to time on the ground. The woman led the children far into the forest, where they had never been in their lives before. Again they made a big fire, and the woman said, "Stay here, you are children, and when you are tired, you may go to sleep for a while. We are going farther on to cut wood, and in the evening, when we have finished, we will come back and fetch you." At dinner time, Gretel shared her bread with Hansel, for he had crumbled his upon the road. Then they went to sleep, and the evening passed, but no one came to fetch the poor children. It was quite dark, and when they woke up, and Hansel cheered his little sister, he said, "Wait a bit, Gretel, till the moon rises, and then we can see the bread crumbs which I scattered to show us the way home." When the moon rose, they started, but they found no breadcrumbs, for all the thousands of birds in the forest had pecked them up and eaten them. Hansel said to Gretel, "We shall soon find the way." But they could not find it. They walked the whole night and the next day from morning till night, but they could not get out of the wood. They were very, very hungry, for they had nothing to eat but a few berries that they found. They were so tired that their legs could no longer carry them any further, and they lay down under a tree and went to sleep. When they woke in the morning, it was the third day since they had left their father's cottage. They started to walk again, but they only got deeper and deeper into the wood, and if no help came, they must perish. At midday, they saw a beautiful snow-white bird sitting on a tree. It sang so beautifully that they stood still to listen to it. When it stopped, it fluttered its wings and flew around them. They followed it till they came to a little cottage on the roof of which it settled down. When they got quite near, they saw that the little house was made of bread and roofed with cake. The windows were transparent sugar. "Here is something for us," said Hansel. "We will have a good meal. I will never have a piece of the roof. Oh, I will have a piece of the roof, Gretel, and you can have a bit of the window. It will be nice and sweet." Hansel reached up and broke off a piece of the roof to see what it tasted like. Gretel went to the window and nibbled at that. A gentle voice called out from within, "Nibbling, nibbling like a mouse, who's nibbling at my little house?" The children answered, the wind doth blow from the heavens to the earth below." And they went on eating without disturbing themselves. Hansel, who found the roof very good, broke off a large piece for himself, and Gretel pushed a whole round plane out of the window and sat down on the ground to enjoy it. And at once the door opened, and an old woman, supporting herself on a crutch, came hobbling out. Hansel and Gretel were so frightened that they dropped what they held in their hands. But the old woman only shook her head and said, "Ah, dear children, who brought you here? Come in and stay with me. You will come to no harm." She took them by the hand and led them into the little house. A nice dinner was set before them, pancakes and sugar, milk, apples, and nuts. After this she showed them to the little white beds, into which they crept, and they felt as if they were in heaven. Although the old woman appeared to be so friendly, she was really a wicked old witch who was on the watch for children, and she had to build the bread house on purpose to lure them to her. However she could get a child into her clutches, she cooked it and ate it, and considered it a great feast. Witches have red eyes and can't see very far, but they have keen noses like animals, and can scent the approach of human beings. When Hansel and Gretel came near to her, she laughed wickedly to herself, and she scornfully, "Now that I have them, they shan't escape me." She got up early in the morning before the children were awake, and she saw them sleeping with their beautiful rosy cheeks. She muttered to herself, "They will be dainty morsels." She seized Hansel by her bony hand and carried him off to a little stable, where she locked him up behind a barred door. He might shriek as loud as he liked. She took no notice of him. Then she went to Gretel and shook her till she woke, and cried, get up, lazy bones! Fetch some water and cook something nice for your brother. He is in the stable, and he has to be fattened. When he is nice and fat, I will eat him." Gretel began to cry bitterly, but it was no use. She had to obey the witch's orders. The best food was now cooked for poor Hansel, but Gretel got nothing but the shells and the catfish. Oh, the shells of crayfish. The old woman hobbled to the stable every morning and cried, "Hansel, put your finger out for me to feel how fat you are." Hansel put out a knuckle bone, and the old woman, whose eyes were too dim to see, thought it was his finger, and she was much astonished that he did not get fat. When 4 weeks had passed, Hansel still kept thin. She became very impatient and would wait no longer. Now then, Gretel, she cried, and bustled along, and fetched the water. Fat or thin, tomorrow I will kill Hansel and eat him. Oh, how his poor little sister grieved. As she carried the water, the tears streamed down her cheeks. Dear God, help us, she cried. If only the wild animals in the forest had eaten us, we should at least have been dead together. You may spare your lamentations. They will do you no good, said the old woman. Early in the morning, Gretel had to go out to fill the kettle with water, and then she had to kindle the fire and hang the kettle over it. We will bake first, said the old witch. I have heated the oven and kneaded the dough. She pushed poor Gretel towards the oven and said, creep in and see if it is properly heated, and then we will put the bread in. She meant when Gretel had gone to the door to shut the door and roast her. But Gretel saw her intention and said, I don't know how to get in. How am I to manage it? Stupid goose, cried the witch. The opening is big enough. You can see that I could get into it myself. She hobbled up and struck her head into the oven. But Gretel gave her a push, which sent the witch right in. And then she banged the door and she bolted it. Oh no, the witch began to howl horribly. But Gretel ran away and left the wicked witch to perish miserably. Gretel ran as fast as she could to the stable. She opened the door and cried, Hansel, we are saved! The old witch is dead! Hansel sprung out like a bird out of a cage when the door is set open. How delighted they were! They fell upon each other's necks and kissed each other and danced about for joy. As they had nothing more to fear, they went into the witch's house, and in every corner they found chests full of pearls and precious stones. These are better than pebbles, said Hansel, as they filled his pockets. Gretel said, I must take something home with me too, and she filled her apron. But now we must go, said Hansel, so that we may get out of this enchanted wood. Before they had gone very far, they came to a great piece of water. We can't get across it, said Hansel. I see no stepping stones and no bridge. And there are no boats either, answered Gretel. But there is a duck swimming. It will help us over if we ask it. So she cried, little duck, that cries quack, quack. Here, Hansel, and here, Gretel, stand. Quickly take us on your back. No path nor bridge is there at hand. The duck came swimming towards them, and Hansel got on his back and told his sister to sit on his knee. No, answered Gretel, I will be too heavy for the duck. It must take us over one after the other. The good creature did this, and when they had got safely over and walked for a while, the wood seemed to grow more and more familiar to them. And at last they saw their father's cottage in the distance. They began to run and rushed inside, where they threw their arms around their father's necks. The man had not had a single happy moment since he deserted his children in the wood, and in the meantime his wife had died. Gretel shook her apron and scattered the pearls and the precious stones all over the floor, and Hansel added handfuls after handfuls out of his pockets. So all their troubles came to an end, and they lived together as happy as possible. Oh, baby. So that was Hansel and Gretel. I got you these from the library because I wanted to read these to you. So this is Nature's Patterns. Look at the little boy with his papa outside looking at the stars. What's inside? 4 days and nights. 6 has the moon, 8 has the tides, 10 is the stars. These are pages, sorry. Alright, so this book tells you about the different patterns in nature. Some of nature's patterns can be seen over days, weeks, or months. Some take place over many years. Days and nights, the moon, tides, stars, from sea to sky, seasons to season, animals on the go, animal life cycles, the forest cycles, the water cycles, in the woods, did you know, puzzles. You love puzzles, Karina. True or false, and find out more. Answers and index. Alright, so day and night. There are many patterns in nature that we can see every day. We can see the patterns of day and night. During the day, the sun moves through the sky. When the sun sets, the day ends and night begins. At sunrise, the sun rises into the sky. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Right? So Mama sees the sun every morning in this window. Right? Earth. It rotates and revolves around the sun. Earth travels around the sun, and it does so. It spins like a top. This spinning is what causes day and night. It's a fact, between September and March, it is nearly always daytime at the southern pole. And we live in the northern hemisphere, so yesterday was the summer solstice. What a great book to pick up for today. At midday, the sun is at its highest point in the sky. People cast shadows in sunlight. The shadows move just like the people. On cloudy days, the sun is hidden above the clouds. Cloudy days are often cooler because sunlight bounces off the cloud and goes back into space. At sunset, the sun seems to disappear beneath the ground. Daylight has ended, right? The moon. The moon is the brightest object in the night sky. It is a huge rock that travels around the earth. Because of this movement, the moon seems to change shapes over time. These changing shapes are called the moon phase. It's a fact. If you walked on the moon, you would weigh only about 1/6 as much as you do on Earth. You could jump really high. When the moon is completely dark, it is called a new moon. You have a moon in the house. A crescent moon can be seen a few days after the new moon. As the moon becomes more and more full, it is said to be waxing. When the moon is completely full, it is called a full moon. A full moon comes about 14 days after a new moon. As the moon becomes less and less full, it is said to be waning. The moon continues to disappear. Soon the moon will be dark again. The moon is extremely hot during the day and very cold at night. Astrologers wear spacesuits that protect them from the heat and the cold. Isn't that neat? They wear spacesuits that protect them from both. Tides. Tides are the rising and the falling of waters in the ocean. They are low tides and high tides. The most places the tides come is twice a day. At low tide, much of the beach can be seen. Low tide leaves a trademark on the beach and on rocks. The water leaves behind tidal pools. Ocean life waits in the tidal pools for the water to return. People harvest clams and other ocean life during low tide. At high tide, most of the beaches is covered by the ocean water. It's a fact. In some places, the ocean climbs by 50 feet, 15 meters during high tide. That's as tall as 8 grown-ups. Tidal pools are often filled with many sea creatures. When the tide goes out, the animals swim back into the ocean. Stars. Every night, stars seem to move slowly across the sky. Because Earth spins, it looks like the stars move. Stars are huge balls of glowing gas. Stars look like tiny dots of light because they are so far away. But stars are really very big. Some of them are 1,000 times bigger than the sun. Some constellations can only be seen during parts of the year. This is because the Earth is always moving in northern parts of the world. Or, there's a belt. So, Orion's belt can only be seen in the winter. A group of stars is called a constellation. Drawing the lines between the stars is in a constellation shows its shape. Remember Mama took you to see, we went to the library and we got to see all the stars in the sky. It's a fact. There are more stars in the sky than there are grains of sand on all the world's beaches. Some stars are brighter than others. This is because they have different temperatures and they are different sizes. Stars that are closer also appear brighter than those that are farther away. Some objects in the sky look like stars, but they are planets. People use telescopes to study the sky. Telescopes make faraway objects seem closer. People can visit special museums called planetariums to learn more about the stars and the planets. They had a planetarium event at the library, and I took you to go see it. And that's how we started going camping, because Tom was also doing camping trips with his Boy Scout troop. We got invited to go along. From sea to sky. Now you know about some of nature's patterns. Can you see the patterns on the moonlit beaches? Words you know. Here are some words that you learned earlier. Say them out loud, then try to find things in the picture. You learned about stars. There are stars on this side of the page. Trademark. Look at the trademark between the water, this is low tide, and the high tide. Full moon. Look at the full moon. Tidal pools. Look at the tidal pool. And low tide. This is low tide in this image. Season to season. Some of nature's patterns happen over a period of weeks or months. Seasons are the parts of the year called spring, summer, fall, and winter. Each season lasts about 3 months. Seasons bring changes in temperature, weather, and the length of the days. The seasons change as Earth moves around the sun. Not all parts of the Earth have 4 seasons. In some places, there are rainy seasons and dry seasons. These places have warm temperatures year-round. Summer. It's summer in the north, when that part of the Earth is tilted towards the sun. The days are longer. Spring. It's spring in the north, when more and more sunlight falls on that part of the Earth. Farmers plant crops in the spring. They harvest them in the summer and the fall. Winter. It's winter in the north, when that part of the Earth tilts away from the sun. The days are shorter. It's a fact. When it's winter and chilly at the top half of the world, it's summer and warm at the bottom half of the world. It's fall in the north, when less and less sunlight falls on that part of the Earth. And we live in the northern hemisphere. That is exactly where we live, and they were absolutely right. We planted a lot of things in the spring to harvest in the summer and the fall. Animals on the go. During certain parts of the year, some animals have moved to a place that has better living conditions. This movement is called migration. Some animals migrate to warmer areas. The big picture shows wildebeest that are migrating to a cross with more food and more water. To areas with more food and more water. More than 1.5 million wildebeests migrate each year. Many kinds of birds migrate during the fall. They spend the winter in a warmer place. Wildebeest migrate in herds to help protect against hunting animals. Wildebeest live in the grassy plains of Africa. They eat grasses of the plains. It's a fact. In the fall, the monarch butterflies migrate to the north, from the north to the south. It crosses almost all of the northern America in almost 2 months. Many kinds of whales migrate to part of the oceans rich with food. They spend the summer eating and storing up fat. In the winter, they travel to warm waters to have babies. Wildebeest travel during the dry season. They move to areas with more rain. Alright. Animal life cycles. A life cycle is steps that animals go through as they grow, change, and have babies. For a hen, the life cycle starts with an egg. The life cycle includes all the steps until a chicken becomes an adult, laying eggs. A chicken begins life as an egg. After about 3 weeks, a chick hatches from the egg. A chick is a much smaller than an adult chicken. It continues to grow and change. After about 3 months, the chick has grown into an adult. It's a fact. Bowhead whales live far more than 200 years. They carry their babies for more than a year. Many animal babies are born during spring. It will take many months before this fowl baby horse reaches an adult size. Yep, most mammals have babies in the spring. You were born in the spring, Karina. Forest cycles. Plants in the forest go through their own cycles. Some plants live hundreds, even thousands of years. Others live for only one season. Plants in a forest provide food for many living things. It's a fact. The first forest developed about 365 million years ago, after more than 100 million years before the first dinosaurs roamed Earth. Plants use energy from the sunshine to grow. Animals eat plants for energy. Squirrels bury nuts so they can eat them later. The forgotten nut may grow into a new plant. Insects and other living things break down the dead trees and other plants. Trees grow big and tall over many years. They block much of the sun from reaching the forest floor. The dead plant's matter goes back into the soil. It makes the soil ready for a new plant to grow. Some plants have seeds that are carried by the wind. The seeds may float a long way before falling to the ground. There they may grow into new plants. The water cycle. Earth's water is continuously moving. Water travels from the oceans to the air to the land and back to the ocean again. This movement is called the water cycle. Heat from the sun causes water to become a gas. The gas rises into the air. Cool air turns the gas into tiny water droplets. These droplets collect and form clouds. Water droplets join together and they become bigger and bigger. Then they fall from the clouds as rain, sleet, or snow. Rain soaks into the ground over time. Much of this water flows back into the ocean. Rainforests have warm weather and many trees. It rains often in these forests because the leaves of these trees give off water. The water rises into the warm air and collects into clouds. Here's the water cycle. Okay. In the woods. Many of nature's cycles are shown in the forest. Which cycles do you see? Words you know. Here are some of the words that you learned earlier. Say them out loud. Then try to find the things in the picture. Clouds. Clouds. Cloud. Life cycle. See a life cycle happening? You have some baby birds, some mama birds, some geese, some rabbits. Tree, right? Tree. Water. Water. Spring. It is springtime. Did you know the same side of the moon always faces Earth until people sent spaceships to the moon? No one has ever seen the far side. Some of the earliest flowers to bloom in the spring are Pasquils. Pasquils is another word for Easter. Pasquil? By studying the position of the sun in the sky, ancient farmers knew when it was time to plant their crops in the spring and harvest them in the fall. People used to think that stars were painted on a great bowl in the sky. Now we know stars are like the sun, but very far away. If a highway is straight to the nearest star, you would have to drive for nearly 50 million years to get there. Earth has one moon, but some planets have more. Jupiter has more than 60 moons. Puzzles. Word jumble. We've taken words from the book and mixed them up in letters. Can you unscramble the letters to identify them? Sun. Sun. Fall. Fall. Forest. Summer. Star. Okay, so, moon. So sun, star, fall, forest, moon, summer. Double trouble. These two pictures are not exactly the same. Can you find the 5 things that are different? The moon is different. The ship is there, 2. There's 3 rocks instead of 2, 3. The tide is different, 4. And the number of stars is different, 5. Match each word on the left with the picture on the right. Spring. Which one do you think spring is? Spring. Moon. Moon. Winter. 3B. Winter. Earth. 4E. Fall. 5C. And summer. True or false? Can you figure out which of these statements are true? Turn the page numbers given to help you find the answers. The moon is made of rocks. Think the moon is made of rocks? I think it is. I think that's true. The boarhead whale can live for more than 200 years. That's true. The sun travels around the earth. That's false. The telescope makes faraway objects look closer. That's true. Days are shortest in the summer. That's false. Find out more. Books and websites that we can do. Alright, so 1 is the moon is made of rocks. That's true. 2. A telescope makes faraway objects look closer. That is true. 3. A boarhead whale can live more than 200 years. That's true. That's true. 4. The sun travels around the earth. So yeah, that's false. And 5. Days are shortest in the summer. That's false. Just wanted to double check my answers because I didn't want to get them wrong on you. Alright, Karina baby, let's sing Lila Tove and good night to you. Lila Tove, may your dreams come true. We sing Lila Tove, may Israel protect you throughout the night. until we reach the morning light. Karina, baby, Mama loves you. Mama misses you. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to hold you. I can't wait to have you. Right now, this is what we got, alright? Mama loves you, baby. So for today, Mama got to go and milk the cow in the morning, and then I mucked up her stall, so I cleaned everything up, and then I let Summer go outside and play with her baby, you know, and got to let the hens out of the hen house for some of them. Oh, I ran into a duck today who's not going into her hen house, into her duck house, and I'm just surprised that she's staying out all night. But there's 2 hens that stay out all night and 1 duck that stays out all night. Don't know why. They just do. So the 1 duck is trying to hatch out some eggs, though. But yeah, I just want to tell you what I was up to and tell you that I love you. Today is Father's Day, so I hope that your Papa is having a good day. And like Papa always used to say, Mama's his sun, Papa's my moon, and you are our rainbow baby. And we love you. We love you no matter what. You're most definitely our rainbow baby, honey. And I do. I love you. Good night, my baby.